will come to you in the silence. I will lift you from all your fears. You will hear my voice. I claim you as my choice. Be still and know I am strength for all the despairing, healing for the ones who dwell in shame. All the blind will see, the lame will all run free, and all will know my name. Do not be afraid.
Please be seated. My name is Sally Ann Silfies. I am the pastor at Greater Hartford United Church of Christ. And I thank you for this honor of being able to lead this service. If you would, please make sure that your cell phones are all on buzzer or turned off. So we're gathered here today to face one of life's most difficult moments, the death of a friend a mentor, a loved one, our friend and loved one, Luna Ricker. It's good to be together. We need one another right now. Each of us grieves, and when we grieve together, a special part of the healing process can begin to take place. So we come to support and to comfort one another in our common loss. And we come to share words of joy, stories that will make us laugh, some that will make us cry, memories that will endure. We gather to commend to God with thanksgiving the life of Luna Harriet Ricker as we celebrate the good news of Ricker's faith, her faith in humanity, her faith in God. And so I share with you the promises of God through the Gospel of Matthew. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest in your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Let's pray. Holy God, we have gathered here because of death, yet life too has brought us together. Luna's life and the love that she shared through that life. As we celebrate her life and ponders the mystery of death, may your Spirit embrace all who are gathered, that each may be comforted, strengthened, and renewed. In the name of Jesus Christ, who lived and died and rose again, that we might have eternal peace and love. Amen.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Luna, forever in my heart, I will hold you dear and remember all the joy we shared from year to year. Our childhood together was close and tight. I'll remember all the memories with absolute delight. I'll never have a more special friend, and the hole in my heart will never mend. So at just 71, you were way too young. Your years of retirement had just begun. But being in heaven with family and friends, your journey is just continuing, not coming to an end. Rest in peace, dear friend.
When her family met and talked about what scripture we would like to read for Luna, we talked about Psalm 121. And her sister-in-law said, "That's Luna. She loves her mountains." It's also a promise from God that we will never be alone. Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will never slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going from this time, now, and forevermore.
How lucky are we to have this little lady affect us so much that we're here today. I suspect that she'd be honored, she'd be very appreciative, but she'd be a wee bit embarrassed as well. Luna was one of those rare people in this world who have done so much good for so many that she instantly is recognizable by her first name. Her name conjures up many feelings for many of us. Care, compassion, comfort, warmth. She's synonymous with all things good in this world. She was what many of us we strive to be. And her compassion is still reverberating in this room and probably will forever. I'd like to share a little bit of how I got to know Luna and the effect that she had on me. I first got to know her when I was about 10 years old. She lived right up the street. She was the young lady up the street. My brother and I would wake up on Saturday mornings during the fall and run up there, knock on her door, and say, are you going to the game today? And she was probably 23. I don't think that was really in her plans, particularly if it was over in Rutland, but yeah, I'm going. She'd tell us when to be back, and we'd go down and get a lunch and go back up and sit there and wait for her. And we'd go to the games, and that went on for 2 or 3 years. But what really my brother and I liked the most about it is after the games, she would always find an ice cream place, and we had the biggest ice creams. I think she'd smile, and that's the first time that I really remember that smile from Luna. As I grew a little older and moved up through school, Luna would make many appearances in my life. One in particular, Legion Baseball, every summer, she would drive to every game, put us in her car, and keep score all summer. She didn't need to do this. I realized pretty quickly that teaching and coaching is what Luna did. It wasn't her job, it was quite simply the way she chose to convey her unselfish passion. It's just what she was born to do. It wasn't until I became a football coach that I really saw firsthand that Luna was really in charge. She was the heart that pumped the blood through our team. When we traveled to away games, Luna would strategically pack her car like a football-themed game of Tetris, and we never had to worry about whether or not we'd have enough equipment, because whatever we needed, she would pull out of that car. But that's just the way she did things. And I think many of us in this town, it's the way we experience Luna. Quiet, behind the scenes, just doing things the Luna way. Traveling with her, as I became a teacher here, we traveled the senior trips together. It was kind of like going to get ice cream with her. One day we were on our way, and we pulled in. We were on our way through to go to, I don't know, a water slide somewhere for the senior class, and we pulled off. The bus kept going, and we pulled off into this marina at Lake Winnipesaukee. I was kind of confused. I looked over at her, and she says, "I heard you need some polish for your new boat." And I said, I'm looking at her, she goes, "Let's go get it." And this is another part of Luna. I'd known her long enough to know that she could be a bit stubborn. So, and we went, and we got the polish. Always giving, always giving. The thing about Luna, she wasn't just there for the wins and the other happy times. Of course, we remember that she was there to be, she was always positive, and she always knew when to take a cold towel and put it around somebody's neck, one of our players, and kind of let them know that they're going to be okay. But she was always there in your darkest hours. I remember the fact that she was an EMT here, yet another position in this town that she filled, service. She allowed you to know, because she was an EMT, she knew before a lot of people in this town that you needed help. And she was oftentimes the first one there. And she didn't leave until she knew that you were going to be okay. Time didn't matter to her. It's not hard to tell that Luna's soul was intricately woven into her work. Her happiest moments weren't her own accomplishments. It was rather when she helped others to succeed. She would smile that smile, and her eyes, they would tear up a little bit with joy. You knew she just loved what she was doing. I've adapted the following from writer Robert Louis Stevenson. Quote, "The woman is a success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of good people and the love of children and all those who loved her, who has filled her niche and accomplished her task, who leaves the world better than she found it, whether by a kind word, a quiet deed, or a rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of what it meant to be a friend, whose compassion for others was displayed on a daily basis, who looked for the best in others and gave the best she had." Close quote. When a soul so valuable to us leaves, we have questions. How do we explain the value of a life which meant so much to us, and pretty much everybody in the town, or everybody that knew her? How do we detail the worth of a properly taped ankle? The thing about the properly taped ankle is there was more going on than just that. That was her opportunity to build a relationship with people and to impart some of her Luna wisdom. And she did that so often to so many of us. It was just, you could tell that it was genuine. How is it possible to explain the depth of Luna's legacy? Surely, we could fill an entire book with stories in here. But to write a book or tell a story implies that there's an ending, and this story of Luna isn't going to end. Her impression on me, on our town, my family, and so many of you is permanent. It's everlasting. There's no end here. But I do believe that there is a responsibility, kind of a call to action, if you will, for each of us to live in some small way how Luna did, with an open heart and an unyielding desire to care for others. I suspect that many of us in this room are struggling to find words to describe what this loss means. I know I am. A woman who was a figure in our community for so long, who was counted on by so many, is gone. If you can't find the words to describe what Luna meant to you, then choose actions instead. Work to do what Luna did best. Have the courage to show you care every day. Put your heart out there for another human being in need. We can all try to live our lives in a way that will honor Luna's legacy. If we each choose to exhibit just a little bit of her humility and compassion for others, then this community will not have lost what Luna spent a lifetime building. And when you choose to show that compassion for others, take a peek upstairs. Luna will be looking down with that smile, and she'll have those tears of joy through those glasses. It's something you'll never forget. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Hartford. And as I say that, I know a lot of you are not from Hartford, but I think I look around, I saw people from Windsor, Woodstock, and all around the Upper Valley today coming here, and I feel really comfortable as we celebrate this woman to say today, we are all Hartford. We are all Hurricanes. My name is Doug Heavysides, and I grew up here in Hartford, and I went to Hartford High School, and I came back to the school after college to teach English, and I coached a little bit, and now I'm the director at the Tech Center. So, like a lot of you folks, I first met Luna as a student athlete and then worked with her as a colleague. And always, Luna was a friend, a good friend, and an advisor, an encourager. And this week I have run, kind of the gamut of emotions when I heard that Luna had passed. Sadness, I sobbed for a bit, and I got pretty ticked off. I was in disbelief, for a little bit, probably like Tuesday or so, because, how the heck can Hartford be Hartford without the lunatic, And each time I passed through one of these emotions, I'd rewrite this little eulogy, if you will, and I went through all those emotions, and now I'm firmly here today, planted in the emotion of humor. So I don't know if this is going to be appropriate or not, but we have to kind of face facts, Hartford, a little bit. That I mean, Luna was the kindest soul that ever lived. She treated all students equally, athletes or non-athletes. It didn't matter to her. She just loved us, and she served the community like no other. But she was also just stinking funny, and fun, and quirky. And then this isn't a real word or phrase, but I made it up. Quirkingly funny, and that was what our relationship was based upon, my relationship with Luna. Each of us kind of giving the other one a hard time about the quirkingly funny things in our personalities. All right, I'm good. And maybe that is why we loved each other so much, that we noticed in each other what we couldn't notice in ourselves, and we had the ability to kind of laugh at it and giggle. It's not a greater sight in the word than the lunatic giggling. So if I'm going to be true to our relationship here today, while I'm up here speaking, I have to focus on the things that I would give her the hardest time about. And again, everything I'm going to say to you now, I have said to Luna repeatedly, so don't think that it's out of place. She heard it all, including a story about Homer Rosenbeck that I'll tell in a minute. Is Homer here? Is he laughing? Okay, if he's not here, that's good. Give me a chance to run from him later. So like my emotions this week, when I tried to settle on a focus for what I was going to say about Luna, I kind of ran the gamut. At first, I thought, all right, I'm gonna focus on the play on words I had for her name. So, when she was being her funny and goofy self, I would simply call her the lunatic. Then when she told me that one of my hockey players had a dislocated hip, and I knew darn well it was just a Charlie horse, that was just sheer lunacy. Then when she would tell me that, I'd be like, Luna, what's going on with everybody? Everybody's acting really strange. And she's like, H, it's the moon. I'm telling you, it's the moon. It's a full moon. And when she did that she was a lunarian then. And I love this. When she first got that golf cart and started driving it around campus from event to event, well, that became the Luna module. And I would give her a hard time when like a student athlete would be down on the field and she'd have to take the Luna module out to the student athlete, and when her feet touched the ground and her knee went down, well, that was a Luna landing. And Luna would just take all this in good spirit with me, but she would save it up for years, and then she would just drop this bomb on me out of nowhere. So, I would pick on her name all the time. She'd just laugh and giggle, and then there was this one time, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I forget who it was somebody from the VPA, that she brought me over. She must have been planning this, because it must have been in her head for a bit, because she introduced me to this fellow, and she said, "This is Doug Heavysides. The name now represents the past tense version of what he used to look like. Dig Lightsides." I'll give you a second to think about that, because it was really quite brilliant, given my girlish figure at this point in my life. I don't know. All I could do was give her a hug and high five her. That was brilliant, and she giggled for weeks about that. Every time she saw me, she's like, "Lightsides." But I didn't choose to focus on that for my little talk. The name puns, so I thought, and maybe, I don't know, only her family noticed this, but I thought about maybe I would focus on Luna's ability to finish our sentences for us. I don't know if that ever happened with all. All right, yeah, the family. Okay, I can't see, okay, good, you're laughing. Because she was really good at it, really kind of uncanny, truthfully. I would start to say something, and then about halfway through, she'd pick up and finish for me. I'd be like, "Luna, stop it!" It drives me crazy. And it got to the point where sometimes I'd just come up to her and I would say, "Luna, I am..." And she'd be looking at me, and I'm like, "You gonna do it?" And she goes, "Oh, all right, sure. You are the biggest pain in the butt." Again, I really could only hug her and high five her. But I didn't focus on that for this eulogy, so then I thought maybe I would focus on the fact that Luna never really seemed to age, ever. And it was like I was teaching at Hartford, it was 1998, somehow I stumbled across her yearbook picture, and I was like, what the, it looks like it was taken yesterday, what? And so from then on, kids are always curious about Luna, going H, how old do you think Luna is? And from then on, I would just say, about 247 years old. She's just been here forever, And, the woman never ages. I don't know how long she's been here. So, but I decided not necessarily to focus on that. And then something happened this morning. I'm going to kind of go off script, which is dangerous for me. Because I didn't write this in here, but one of the things I used to pick on Luna about was her glasses. I'd be like, "Lunatic, it's not 1900, all right? You're a really pretty woman. Get some glasses that kind of show your face, take the points off," and she'd be like, "Just stop." And this is the way it was with me, is that she would save up all this kind of abuse and then get me months or years later. So this morning I'm up in my office and I'm rereading this, and I have one pair of reading glasses, and I cannot do a stinking thing without them. I can't see this in front of me now. And so I'm running a little late, so I go to grab my one pair of glasses, that happened. And I was just like, Luna! I really swear, like she was with me this morning. I'm like, not today, that's not funny, you know? And so I had to scoot next door to my teammate's office, Aaron Tomlinson, and steal his glasses, and he's got a really thin face, and they work for him, but for me, it's like, you know, a pumpkin with a needle on its face, you know? And I know she's here, and she's just giggling away going, well, go ahead, pick up my glasses. So I didn't focus on that either. So what I decided to focus on was tape, athletic tape to be specific, because that was the thing that was at the center of most of my jests with Luna, and get like the biggest kind of smiles and oftentimes the hardest shoves, and say, oh kid, you're too much. So a little known fact about Luna is that she really was a certified ninja with a roll of tape. I swear to God, Coach kind of mentioned it, but in that room back there, she had the table. I would hop up on that table, and in 30 seconds, at the end of the table, there'd be like this blur of action, and in 30 seconds, both my ankles would be taped, and my elbow would be taped to my ear, and my other elbow would be taped to my knee, and I had no idea what the hell just happened. And she'd be like, okay, you're good to go. You know, and Luna was kind of a healer that way. Like, if you got hurt in the middle of a game, like, I swear you could have a severed aorta, a broken collarbone, and a broken finger, and she could tape you. Not only that you could finish the game, but, you know, you'd go home after and take a shower, and then go to take the tape off with your neighbor's chainsaw, and you'd be all healed. It was miraculous that she was like this, you know, this healer with a roll of tape. Indeed, it was a miracle, and tape was her go-to. And when I was playing, my teammates and I, we could often tell what we were in store for in terms of a game by the number of rolls of tape that Luna had hanging. She had this little, I don't know, it was like a holster. Like, and she had them like kind of everywhere. When she walked, it kind of sounded like a tambourine. But she had these rolls of tape, and if she had one roll, you know, we were going to win that day. She felt confident we were going to win. If there were 2 rolls, well, it was 50-50 at best, right? And if there were 3 or more rolls, she's probably expecting us to get slaughtered and hurt. And so my senior year, we were 1-8, and in every single game she showed up with at least 5 rolls of tape around her middle. And, you know, and by the 4th quarter of my senior year, the last game of the season at Windsor, I just looked like the mummified version of my former self, and kind of ran stiff-limbed. And, you know, when I told Luna about that tape theory, she would just laugh when I cited my mummified version of myself. And, you know, she was quick to say, H, what are you talking about? You're a mediocre player at best, and you simply had hands of stone. Don't blame me, you didn't catch the ball. And she wasn't wrong. I mean, but this is what I mean. Like, I would save up all this stuff, and then she would just get me. So jump ahead a bit. You know, that I was teaching in Hartford High School, and at the time, the lunatic was in charge of the vending machines. And there was a vending machine, a Coca-Cola machine, in the teacher's lounge. And I went in there one morning, and, you know, the machine had been acting up a bit, you know, the 3 days prior to that, and I go in there, and it's early, and that's when Luna and I would really kind of connect and laugh and giggle, because we're both early risers, and get here, and every day she'd come into my classroom, we'd chat. But she didn't come in, so I went down to get my Coca-Cola that morning, and there she is, the machine doors are open, and there she is kind of on her knees, and she's like elbow deep in the machine with one hand holding a roll of tape. And I'm like, lunatic, what the hell are you doing? She's like, it ain't working, so I'm gonna fix it. And I'm like, really? And she was pleased as punch, because when I left there, you know, she had kind of taped the coin slot so that it couldn't give change back, but it would dispense the product. And so when I left there with my Coca-Cola that I paid $1 for, that it should have only cost 75 cents, she was just giggling and giggling. Like, I think she really, in hindsight, I think she did that just to get back at me. That was one of her jokes. She had that thing taped up, the Coca-Cola machine. And lastly, when I was a coach, you know, I would tell my hockey players, look, if you're gonna get hurt, and you're going to be on the ice, and you're going to make my chunky little butt skid across that ice to try to get your hurt self back to the bench, you better be near death. And so one game, Homer Rosenbeck, he kind of went hard into the boards, and wait, he's not getting up. They stopped the play. He's still not getting up, and I wait a little bit. He's kind of looking at me like, Coach, you coming out? And so I scoot out there, and so I shuffle out, and I said, Homer, are you all right? And he said, Coach, yeah, I hit the boards, and I just heard this pop. I think I blew my groin out. And I was believing that he was hurt. Homer was a tough kid. I mean, real tough kid. But I had my backup plan for kids that, were saying they couldn't get off the ice or couldn't get off the field under their own power. So I had to use it. And in this case, it was just simply, I said, Homer, I can't skid you out of here. I'm not calling an ambulance. And I said, I'm really sorry your groin is hurt, but let me tell you, Luna's halfway here. She's got a roll of tape in her hand. And if you don't get here, I swear to God, she's going to tape your groin to your forehead. Right here in front of everybody. And miraculously, Homer popped up and made his way to the bench, I'll bet with a significant limp. But you kind of save that one for your back pocket a little bit. But in all seriousness, and I had to kind of do this lest I'd be up here sobbing in front of you, I love Luna. And I love her name, and her humor, and her tape, and her ability to fix things, particularly with kids who ask for love in the most unloving ways, like a kid like me. So, goodness, I kind of miss her already, and I'm grateful I had Luna to tape and joke with me and teach me and encourage me. And I just don't think a kinder human will ever exist. Thank you.
Don't go away. This is amazing. You can smile if you want. After listening to him, there should be a lot of good smiles. Thank you. Probably forget that. First of all, I want to talk to you about an article I think you should read if you haven't, done by Paul Keene. It's in the Valley News today in the back, and it says that she was the great unsnagger. And then he goes on to explain that. And he entitled it Luna Ricker, Quiet, Courageous, and Everywhere. Now, I refer to her as the great unknown hero. But then I got to change that. Heroine. It's a tough one. But I also am here to represent 3 friends who called me, and I spoke to them recently, that they cannot be here. One is Butch Lovering. He's on his way back to Florida. The second is Dave Briggs. Dave Briggs is over doing a Dartmouth program that is tied in with Norwich University. We just celebrated our 200th year. We were formed in 1819, so obviously it's 200 years. I know you're good at math. And a third one was Tom Lamb, and Tommy wanted to be here and say his special condolence to the Luna family, Luna Richter family. He is coaching, and he's at Plymouth High School in New Hampshire. I looked through some of the things that I've written about Luna in the past, but one of them I do want to share. This was written in 1983. I wrote to our
Hartford High School Superintendent John Frank endorsing the hiring of Luna for Kathy Carlson for a 1 year of absence for Kathy. I spoke about her loyalty shown by Luna to the school system and that she should be hired from within. She has always maintained a professional attitude about her services and never suggested that our athletes should be re-enter a game or event if their safety or health was in question. On March 10th, 2018, near her she retired last year, or maybe it was close to that, but, and I wrote this, many boys and girls who have chosen to wear the Hartford colors have known in their heart of hearts that any injury that occurred during their practice or game would be handled by Luna. You have touched the lives of thousands and are truly loved, admired, and appreciated by our total community. Often you would hear, "Where's Luna?" was a typical response by coaches. You look around, you have an injury. Both of our previous speakers, Dougie and Coach and Mike, have spoken about that. But if you're coaching, you look around for Luna, or we did, and she'd be there. I thought the stories about taping was pretty awesome. And this is why I wanted to speak. When my son, when my son was 19, he dropped on us from asthma attack on the floor in our house. Beth went to the phone, my wife, and called 911. Luna is on the scanner. She hears it. I hear a knock on the door. She comes in. Now, at this point, my son Steve is total blue. She reaches down, goes through preliminaries, finds out we don't have a pulse. Bob, we need to work on it. We did. I did the mouth-to-mouth, and she did the heart massage. He is now 44. Second life. To add to that story, I was perfect when I finished. Got in the ambulance, cried like hell. Got to his room in the hospital, and he says, "Dad, you're 1 for 2 now." I said, "You little shit." Excuse me. Actually, that's verbatim. Because Joe Garino and I had worked on a person once before when we saw him near the road, and that person didn't make it. So Steve has many lives because of Luna, and she's special to the family. Thank you for sharing her with us. That's all, folks.
I think I need to move the table. Like maybe here. Go away a little bit. That's good.
Hi there. Well, first things first, you're not asked to do something like this for this person with those 3 gentlemen without thinking. It's pretty special. So I do not stand here and think anything otherwise. Hi there. My name is Scott Barnsworth, and I've worked with Luna here at Hartford High School for 15 years. However, I've known of Luna and known Luna for much longer. When I was a wee lad, just a teenager, I was working at Blood Seafood and Catering, selling shrimp and lobsters and codfish. Met a lot of people in that decade or two while I worked there. One of the most remarkable characters I ever met was Sandy Gore. Sandy was a hoot. We had many, many laughs together. And amongst the laughter and the tall tales, I actually remember her talking about Aunt Luna. Mostly because I had never heard that name before, and Sandy was always talking with you, Sandy. Usually, however, about cooking and family get-togethers. We surely know how special family was to Sandy. God bless her, and she passed away in 2001. But I know her spirit is strong, as is, I'm sure, her gift of gab. I know she had her arms wide open when Luna arrived in heaven. My guess is Luna hasn't gotten a word in edgewise. The other time I met Luna was in 1989. One day I told a co-worker, Barbara George, I wanted to get involved with the High School Musical. After speaking with Rob Gaddy and Phil DeChumble, I was signed on to direct what would be my first of 4 shows, Penny and Rainbow, 1989. Rehearsals were going well. I loved working with the kids and our production crew. 2 days before dress rehearsal down at the theater, we were getting the last touches together and running through the show. However, not too much time went by before I asked Gaddy, who is that woman on the stage? She's all over the place. She's backstage, she's on stage, she's looking after kids, she's moving sets. Who the heck is she? What does she think she's doing? Well, and thus my introduction to all things Luna. Nearly a dozen years later, in 2000, I started work at Hartford High School and had memories of daily interactions with this woman. Soon she was endeared by me and became such a go-to colleague and friend for the next 2 decades. For example, amongst her many hats she wore over the years of school, Luna was somehow the card lady. She seemed to appear out of nowhere with cards and would pass them on to the principal to hand out at staff retirements, or she'd get flowers and cards as part of her unassuming role as the one-woman Sunshine Club. Though she was often everywhere and seemingly nowhere throughout the year, we all knew where to find her come June. The first was graduation practice. Back there, running the music, and helping the grads get their right foot in front of the other foot. And the second, of course, was at graduation itself under the maple tree out on the green out front, as the kids began their long march toward their seats. And go. And go. And the third was, of course, project graduation, often standing in the front door with friends and parents and former students as the new graduates checked in. In the years to come, 2 events particularly come to mind as I think of Luna. In 2011, Tropical Storm Irene devastated Vermont and severely impacted Hartford and the surrounding towns. You likely know that Hartford High School is an emergency shelter in times of need. And this gymnasium, our gymnasium, quickly became a housing shelter for nearly 3 weeks. For families, couples, and kids. We even had a couple dogs. I'd venture to say that Luna played hostess every single day and all the evenings to help the Red Cross staff in serving as liaison between the Hartford Fire and the police departments. In 2013, when our town experienced 3 youth suicides, Luna helped connect us with Frank Silfies, then the director of the Green Mountain Critical Incident Stress Management Coalition, to support our Hartford staff, and also presented at our community forum. In later years, as Frank himself became ill, Luna gave me updates nearly every day as his progress. I was lucky enough to go to Luna's house this week with her family. Now, her house could serve as a satellite location for the Historical Society of the town of Hartford. Every yearbook, photos, film reels, even her horn she played in 4 years in band in 1963 to 1966. And that very cornet we might just see later. It dawns on me that for a person who seemingly was so often alone, Luna also seemed to be part of many groups, and at least 5 families. The undisputed many generations of the Rickers, where she often threatened to put a brick on the heads of her nieces and nephews as they grew tall. The school family, which included staff and multiple generations of kids. Her athletic family, likely winning the Guinness Book of World Records for having watched more middle and high school athletic games in one community than anyone else. And of course, there was her Grange and her church family. You know, there's one family I had no idea she was so close with. All over her house, from the bottom floor to the top floor, she was surrounded by this family. Trinkets and posters and Christmas ornaments and athletic pictures and sayings and tiny and tall, and Luna was surrounded by her Peanuts family. Chuck and Lucy and Schroeder, Linus and Sally and Snoopy and Woodstock. Quite fascinating, actually. All first names, just like our Luna. This 50-year collection had to be 50 years, right? I mean, honestly, right? So the 50-year collection awaited her during her late nights, joined her for Diet Coke in the morning hours, and surrounded her with love in every corner of the living room. She was far from alone. The more I thought about these characters, the more each of them, with their idiosyncrasies, represented the very children she embraced here at school. None of us were perfect. Not all of us could play sports. We didn't excel at music. Some of us have been fighting the Red Baron all of our lives, and surely others could have taken a shower or two, maybe a little more often. Yet, in Luna's eyes, we all belonged. She made us feel wanted, a part of something bigger than we are. Not only did we belong, but we were special. We were capable. Even if she sometimes sounded like wah, 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 wah. In all of us, Luna saw hope and allowed us to be ourselves with little judgment or fanfare. In closing today, and to honor each of her families she held so near, I wanted to play a little tune that exemplifies Luna, a person I've never seen mad, depressed, or angry. Oh yes, she may have certainly felt all of these things on occasion, but she didn't show it. Very often she was happy, and happy with the little things. The things that brought a smile to your face, and the little things that made the universe in Hartford a better place. Like devil dogs, a scanner that ran 24/7, probably still on right now, a new phone, a trophy or a blue ribbon for all of her masterful abilities at croquet with the family get-togethers. She was certainly happy with her neighborhood on Fern Street and the surrounding neighbors who cared for each other year in and year out. So, from the Broadway show, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, I wanted to close with the song that serves as the finale of the show. Luna deserves a finale like no other. And 30 years later, I'm not directing this time, but she surely is center stage, just like she should be. The tune is called Happiness and features all of the members of her Peanuts family, Charlie Brown and Sally, Linus and Lucy, and Schroeder and Snoopy, and Pigpen and Peppermint Patty and Marcy. So thanks, Luna. Thanks for being a true friend who believed in all of us and helped us find happiness in anyone and anything at all. This one's for you, kid.
I'm so happy. That little red-haired girl dropped her pencil. It has teeth marks all over it. She nibbles her pencil. She's human. It hasn't been such a bad day after all.
1966.
Happiness is finding a pencil.
Pizza with sausage, telling the time. Happiness is learning to whistle, tying your shoe for the very first time.
And happiness is walking hand in hand. Happiness is 2 kinds of ice cream.
Knowing a
catching a firefly, setting him free.
Happiness is being alone every now and then.
And happiness is coming home again.
Happiness is morning and evening, daytime and nighttime too. For happiness is anyone and anything at all that's loved by you.
Happiness is having a sister,
Sharing a sandwich,
getting along.
Death is Nothing at All by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the same easy way which you always did. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air, solemnity, or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the shadow of a ghost on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am just waiting for you for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well.
Wow, so how do I follow all of that? Here are two things I know about Luna. She would have loved this, and she would have hated this. She would have loved it because all of her friends and her family, and especially some of her kids, are all together here in this place that she loved so much. She loved it so much that she spent 46 years here at this high school. She would have hated it because she wouldn't want to hear us talking about her, praising her as a wonderful teacher and trainer, friend, mentor. Well, guess what, Luna? Too bad. We're all just gonna do that. I first met Luna through a mutual friend, Reverend Margaret Stoddard. Now, I want to tell you that Margaret did not think Luna and I would ever get along together. We were too much alike, too honest, too forward, too, you know. Well, how could I not like Luna? I can't imagine not liking Luna. And once we got to know each other better, we became friends. Although I must say that my friendship has only been the last 8 years, and yours all have been much, much, much longer. Here's what I know about this friend. We were in the hospital at the same time. She, because they didn't know what was going on, and me because I just had surgery. Well, she was on the 2nd floor and I was on the 3rd. And when her friends would come to see her, they would always make her come up and make sure I was okay. That's a friend. One time they told her she could go for a walk if somebody would push her in the wheelchair. She decided she was going to come visit me. When they found that out, they told her no way. So, once again, she sent her friend up to check on me. That was Luna. So, I love hearing stories, especially those when I'm sitting around with a family and they're just reminiscing, laughing, sometimes crying, but mostly laughing. So I had that kind of time with Luna's family this week. And here are just a few snippets of what I heard. From her brother, Alvin. Luna was 2 years old when Beverly and I got married. She ran up and down the aisle throughout the wedding, and my mother tried to rein her in. Well, that wasn't going to happen. I don't think anyone ever could rein Luna in her entire life. From her niece, Marie, when she was trying to get Luna to eat some decent breakfast, whether it be at home or in the hospital. Why don't you try some eggs? Why don't you eat some cereal? Luna's response, how about some cookies or some dessert? She did love her sugar. From her great-nephew, Ernie. While going on some trip to a hockey game, he took a curve slightly a little quicker than he should have, and Luna slid right off the back seat of the van. How they laughed. Well, maybe she should have been wearing her seat belt. They remembered the nested Christmas cards. You know, the Christmas card, and then inside of that is the Christmas card with money in it. The nested Christmas cards. I'm going to have to remember that one. And finally, from her great-nephew, Adam. When the first time he came to the school and he noticed the Luna door. Wow, Aunt Luna, they named a door after you. Her response was, well, it's just a door. They didn't name the gym after me. I heard about the wooden tennis racket. She would not get a newer one. Always used that one. I didn't know Luna much at Greater Hartford. She was a member there. She was the sexton for many years. And she actually was the leader of the youth group for many years and actually took some kids to Europe, I had heard. Yeah. So is there anyone who didn't know Luna? I found out that wherever you went with Luna, she knew somebody. At Denny's, her students worked there. At 99, her students worked there. At McDonald's, her students worked there. But you know, that's all close by stuff. What about distant places? Luna and I took a trip this year to P&H Truck Stop in Wells River. We're talking 45 miles north of here. Guess what? Yep, Luna knew someone at the truck stop. And not just one person, 4 people stopped at our table. 45 miles north of here. But I think the best story I ever heard was from Margaret. Margaret told me about some trips they had taken to Europe with the youth group and with some of the sports teams, girls' sports teams. One time, while they were in England with some of her students, or maybe it was a youth group, they were in the airport, and you guessed it, Luna knew somebody in the airport in England. Luna, wow. But here is my final story, and I think one of my favorite. You see the firefighters sitting and standing around. Luna loved being an EMT. She loved being a part of that fire department. And my favorite story is from a friend of mine who happened to be an ER nurse at Dartmouth. When she and I did a course together this year, and she told the story about, she said, I want to tell you what I remember about Luna. If we ever got a student in the ER who didn't want to call their parents or couldn't call their parents for whatever reason, they'd always say, call Luna. Or maybe Luna just happened to be in the ER that day, or she was on the ambulance call for that student. Well, my friend said Luna sat with that kid. She talked to them, usually calmly. And then if they still didn't want to go home, still didn't want to call their parents, Luna would call their parents and tell them that she was going to make sure they were safe and that she'd make sure they had a safe place to stay. And she did. That's the Luna I came to know in the last 8 years. The one who loved and cared for all her kids. And the one whose kids all loved and cared about Luna. And now I'd like us all to pray a prayer of thanksgiving for Luna's life. God of grace and glory, we give thanks for the life of Luna Ricker. And we give thanks for her ways that made this world a better place to live, and for her friendship, empathy, and love that filled our lives. We thank you that you have given us gifts and talents with which to serve you, and that Luna used those gifts and talents not only to serve you, but to serve each of us and her community. We give you thanks that Luna was and is part of our common life. The truth of her life endures, for it is woven into the fabric of the larger life of which we are all part. Luna has touched each of our lives in a different way, and we are all the richer for having known her. We thank you that for Luna all sickness and sorrow are ended and death itself is past, that she has entered the home where all your people gather in peace. May all who mourn be granted the wisdom to find meaning and purpose in your design of life, and thanksgiving for Luna's life that made a difference in our lives. And now if you will join me, if you wish, to say the prayer that Christ taught us all. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Must have been cold there in my shadow, to never have sunlight on your face. You are content to let me shine. You always want the step behind. I was the one with all the glory. Well, you were the one with all the strength. Beautiful face without a name.
As Chief of the Hartford Fire Department, it's my honor to recognize Luna Ricker for her years of service as a call firefighter EMT with the Hartford Fire Department and her service to this community. Luna was a member of the department for 37 years. She supported emergency operations and provided care to the sick and injured as an emergency medical technician. Having worked with Luna over the years, I have witnessed her compassion towards others. I've seen her treat patients with words, kindness, and a personal connection during an ambulance transport to ease the person's discomfort. Luna was also a member of the White River Firefighters Association, which is a fraternal organization that has existed in the department for many years. During her membership, she helped facilitate many educational scholarships that are awarded annually to children or relatives of fire department family members. Fire departments have many traditions to remember those who go before us. One of those is the firefighter's last radio call. Luna, I thank you for your service. We are honored to give you your final call. For those that are able, please stand and bow your heads.
Zone 2, Operations 2.
Engine 1 from the chief. Clear for the last call.
Firefighter Ricker, this is Hartford Dispatch. Firefighter Ricker from Hartford Dispatch. Having heard no response from Firefighter Ricker, we know that Luna has responded to her last call on Earth, and the fire department in the hereafter has a new responder. Luna served the citizens of the town of Hartford for 37 years. We appreciate Luna's dedication and her family's sacrifice during the time Luna was a firefighter. Luna Ricker has now become a guardian who will help watch out for all firefighters as they respond to emergencies. Firefighter Luna Ricker completed her tour as a firefighter in this life. Be safe until we meet again, my friend. Hartford Dispatch clear. 14:21 hours.
Rest in peace, Luna.
And now may the Lord of all mercies make his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and look upon you with kindness in your grief. Amen.
Everyone is invited to follow the family out to the tent in the front of the church, the school, for a reception. Please join them if you can.